Okay, hello. All right, looks like we have a good amount of participants on. So it's 12 o'clock on the dot in the East Coast. So we're going to get started very soon. I'll give it just another minute or so for people to come in. And I know some of you, but my name is Bobby Martin, and I am one of the board members of the TDC. And very excited about our lunchtime guest here today. And so I'll do a little bit of an introduction in a second. While we are still having people come on in, I will give a little bit of the background on some of the TDC things that are happening right now that I want you all to participate in or be aware of or spread the word about. So we have some exciting events coming up. So I will say to please check out tdc.org to see some of the new events that we have planned. There's going to be a conference in coming months to check out, so please keep an eye out for that. Also check out TDC on Instagram and Twitter if you don't already. I've had the pleasure over the last year or so to be really involved with scholarships at the TDC. And so we have been able to now provide 2 really substantial scholarships in partnership with our friends over at Monotype. And the first you've probably heard of is the Beatrice Ward Scholarship, and it's $5,000 for women or people who are female identifying that are interested in type design and studying and really obsessed with typography. So please go to tdc.org to check out the application process there. It's really short and sweet, and just enter your portfolio and a couple of other details. I believe that some of the criteria are that you are a current student in college or graduate school. I believe ideally you'd be a junior in college, so that if you do receive the $5,000, you're able to apply that to your upcoming year. And then we also have another fairly new scholarship that you may have heard of called the TDC Superscript Scholarship. And that is a scholarship specifically for Black, Indigenous, people of color studying type design and typography, and those that are just really interested in furthering their studies in type and type design. So all my Black folks, brown folks, and Indigenous folks out there in the world, please do check out tdc.org so that you can get some of this money to be able to do what you do best and be able to do it better. And so I am very happy to be able to introduce somebody that I have been intrigued by for so long. Is our friend and new board member, Saki Mafendikwa, who is in Zimbabwe right now. So I say that this is our lunchtime talk. This is actually his dinner time talk. So thank you so much for joining us. I'll give a little bit of an intro and then I'll turn everything over to you, Saki. So I first learned about Saki because of this book that he published called African Alphabets. And so I immediately purchased it myself, and I have it on my bookshelf in the office, and we refer to it quite often. And I'm really intrigued by the work that he's been doing with his students. Saki founded a design school in Zimbabwe called ZIVA. It's the Zimbabwe Institute of Visual Arts. And so we are happy to have someone with such ambition and expertise to be able to talk with us today. Most recently, Saki participated in Silas Monroe's African Americans and those of the African diaspora in graphic design. And so Silas has been doing a fantastic job of helping to kind of reintroduce people to the rich history that people of color have in design. And so please check that out as well. So without further ado, now it's a little bit after the hour. So hopefully those that are joining are here and able to hear and see what we're up to, because I'm going to pass it over to our friend and board member, Saki Mafendikwa. You're on. Thank you. Please jot down questions, and we will be able to answer some, have him answer questions at the end of his presentation. Saki?
Thank you, Bobby. Let me share my screen.
Wonderful. You can see it.
Okay. Showtime. So I don't know what to say. Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon. I guess it's good afternoon for those of you 7 hours behind me, and others are even, I saw Hawaii. You're like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 hours behind me. Thank you for coming to this talk. So I'm from Zimbabwe, and I always introduce my talks with this slide here of this structure called the Great Zimbabwe, which is where the country, my country, gets its name from. Zimbabwe means houses made of stone, named after this 11th century structure made entirely of stone without any mortar. And it is really us. We feel like we are stone, you know. And to illustrate that, Zimbabwe has an international tradition of stone sculpture. They say that of the top 10 stone sculptures in the world, 6 of them are from Zimbabwe. So stone is really etched in our DNA. And I'm from Harare, which is our capital city. This is Harare in our spring, which would be your fall in the US between September and October, when the jacaranda trees are in full bloom. And well, I've gained some notoriety as somebody who advocates for people from different cultures to look within themselves for inspiration, designers especially, because in those other cultures, we tend to think that design is sort of a Western construct, but yet we do have design in our cultures, some older, much older than the mainstream Western culture. And I'm also known for having gone back from a successful career in New York City as a designer, having gone back home to found my country's first graphic design and new media school, which I decided to call ZIVA, which is an acronym for Zimbabwe Institute of Vigital Arts. And Vigital is a term I coined to explain the school, which is a visual arts school using digital tools. And at the school, I teach the freshmen. Basically, I like them green, before they know the terms of design, things like a font, typography. Before they know that, I give them this exercise, which is design a typeface inspired by nature. That's it. And each year, the students give me some amazing work from their creativity. In December 2019, the school celebrated 20 years of existence. And what it time it's been, it's been some amazing experiences. I should write a book about running a school in Zimbabwe for 20 years without any funding, I must add. So anyway, we've had some wonderful and amazing people come to the school to run workshops, to give talks. And one of the most memorable ones was this one by Gertz Gramlich, an amazing designer, type and poster designer from Heidelberg in Germany. He came under the the banner of Poster for Tomorrow. Poster for Tomorrow is a Paris-based entity that gives these briefs to schools around the world. And this year, in this particular year, when Gertz came, the brief was design a poster for under the heading of education is a right. So 3 days. This is the work that the students produced. Some logos designed by the school, by the students. I also have run workshops around the world. And this was an EcoGrada design week in Torino in Italy. And I ran a workshop, a type design workshop based on my African alphabets book, which Bobby talked about and which I shall talk about in more detail a little bit later. But what was special about this workshop was that the students were from different parts of the world. So I really enjoyed working with this group of students. So the theme was multi-vessel for the conference. And as you know, when you design a typeface, you take a word and maybe create the letters, design the letters for that word, and then develop it into a fully fledged alphabet. And I'll just share with you a couple of them. Then in 2018, I kind of took a break from maybe call it a sabbatical from running ZIVA. And I went to Seattle and taught at Cornish College of the Arts there. And while I was in Seattle, I also gave workshops or ran workshops at different universities around the States. And so 2018, I think, was the 70th anniversary of the Declaration of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. So I gave that as a project to my students in Seattle. Then I did a one-day workshop at Binghamton University, upstate New York. And I really enjoyed that experience. It was just a day, especially because I had students there from different parts of the world. So a couple of students were from China, and they asked me if they could do their posters in Chinese. And I said, sure, why not? And these are the posters. The one on the left, should your family be natural? Apparently in China, your family, your immediate family, the people your nucleus family, that's your family. So this student was questioning that and saying, why can't be my friends, colleagues, and other people be family? This one I did a year ago, almost to the day, in South Africa at the Greenside Design Center. Just a few weeks, actually, when I think about it, a few weeks before COVID. So this was really sort of like the last workshop that I did physically with students. And they designed typefaces. The one on the left, the sister was battling breast cancer. And so she designed what she called the cancer font, inspired by the ribbon. And on the left was a student with Indian ancestry, the henna painting that they do on their hands and on their feet. And this student was into dance. And so she put on a tutu, and a friend took photos of her posing for the whole alphabet, which I thought was pretty amazing. The heart being love. And this takes me back to my New York days. I lived and worked in New York after college, and I taught at Cooper Union. And so I created a class there that I called Writing Systems from Non-Western Societies. And it was pretty exciting. Not all the students were from other places. Like these two were done by American kids who just were really excited to be working with writing systems that are not familiar. So Sanskrit from India and the dreamings of the Aborigines in Australia. And as you can see, they created books. I'm a fan of books. I learned how to make books in graduate school. Then there was a student, one of the students in my class was from South Korea, and she introduced me to Hangul, the writing system from there. And the story really resonated with me. I love the story of how the Koreans were forced to use Chinese writing. And they felt the king, their emperor, Sejong the Great, felt that Korea deserved its own or her own writing system. So he went on to create Hangul, to invent Hangul in 1446. And so rather than a book to tell that story, the student created a cube out of cardboard. And why a cube? Well, if you see here, apparently Hangul was created on a matrix of geometric shapes, this circle, square, and triangle, which is why she created the cube. Then in America, Sequoia, whom I consider an American hero, really, a type hero, just a hero who should be in the history books. He was illiterate in terms of the Roman alphabet, but he was intrigued by the printed word. So what he did was he took letters that he liked, okay? So this is not a D to him, okay, or an R, and gave them meaning in Cherokee, and single-handedly invented a script in 1806. And in terms of where can you find Sequoia? Well, Johnny Cash actually wrote a song about Sequoia and he's writing, and he called it Talking Leaves, and you can find it on YouTube. Hooray for Johnny Cash, really. And that's about all you can find on Sequoia in terms of him being heralded as this hero. And this is still in modern day use in Oklahoma, Cherokee. Then in 2012, TED went around the world looking for speakers for their 2013 conference in Long Beach, California. And they invited me to Nairobi to come and audition. And I was like, hell, I've never been to Nairobi. I'm just going to go for the ride. I'll never make it anyway, you know. So I just went to Nairobi, had some fun. And a few months later, they wrote me and they said, we would like you to come to Long Beach to give this talk about your school that you started in Zimbabwe and your book, The African Alphabets. And it was a pretty amazing conference. So that's a book. And in the book, I showcase Africans who, specifically from sub-Saharan Africa, because Egypt has been written about. I mean, there are thousands of books about the role of Egypt in the story of writing in the world. And so I concentrated mainly on sub-Saharan Africa, you know, those people who invented writing systems that were like Sequoia, were never heralded in the history books at all. People like King Ibrahim Joya of the Bamum people in Cameroon, who invented a writing system called the Bamum at age 25 in 1896. Apparently, Shumom is the language that they speak, but the writing system was called Bamum. And this is it. So the original, it's a syllabary, it's not an alphabet. And what it is today, it's alive and well and being taught at the palace in Fumban, the capital city of Bamum Kingdom. And I went there and met the king, who is the grandson of King Joya. Nsibidi is an ancient writing for a secret society. These people who live in the southern part of Nigeria. And as a non-initiate, you're not supposed to see certain symbols. They're called dangerous symbols. So I only share the very safe ones here. Then in 2017, TED invited me to Arusha, Tanzania, because I designed the backdrop for the conference there. And I had just finished reading a book by Nnedi Okorafor, and I met her. I was so excited, starstruck actually. I rushed to her and I said, I'm your biggest fan in the world, And she was like, are you the guy who wrote the book, African Alphabets? And I said, yeah. She's like, oh, I love that book, especially the Nsibidi that you include in Nsibidi. I'm from the Igbo people. Those are the people who invented Nsibidi. And she uses actually Nsibidi in her books. And Nsibidi has mystery, is a mysterious and dangerous writing system. This is Nzibidi in the New World. When people were carried across the Atlantic during slavery, they took their religions with them. And it's alive and well in Cuba, which is where this is from, and it's called Anofuruana, as designed or devised by the secret society, Santeria Secret Society of Abaqua. And you find this kind of graphic writing in Brazil, in the Candomblé religion of the Africans there, in places like Haiti, in Voodoo. Then in the forest of the Congo, deep in the forest, the Turi people, the men create this, which I call sort of paper, but it's actually the bark of a tree that they stretch out. And then they start playing these polyphonic structures on drums, okay, and sing, while the women translate that music on the bark cloth using dyes made from flowers, pigments from the soil, from the bark of trees. So this is the music that they hear. So in a way, what we are looking at here is African musical notation. In Angola, this also made it across the Atlantic to Brazil and other places, and Cuba. The Jokwe people, the Aurora, people of the Aurora, they make these sand drawings, which are actually writing. In Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, the Akan people, about 400 years ago, it's more than that now, created these symbols. They call the Adinkra Symbols, which are proverbs, historical events, and so forth, animals. And my favorite one is this one, Sankofa, because I actually advocate for us Africans a return to our past, which is where our greatest achievements are, and learn from the past to create a future, a bright future for us. South Africa has the Bantu symbol writing, which is also called Nguni symbol writing. My favorite Nguni symbol is this one here, Gossip, which is in the shape of a TV. And can you get a worse gossip device or machine than a TV? Then in Liberia, the Vai people had a long tradition of writing before their first contact with Europeans in the mid-1800s. And they created a syllabary, the Vai syllabary. And while I was at TED Global in 2017 in Arusha, Tanzania, somebody just kind of like rushed me. You know, he ran up to me and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting you here. You don't know the work you have done for us with your African alphabets book. The world knows about our writing system," and so forth and so forth. And he promised to send me a gift, which he did. Actually, it was somebody from Liberia who was coming to Seattle, since I was in Seattle then. And it's a Vai Bible. which is just blew my mind. But that writing system is in wide use today in Liberia. Then the Mende syllabary used by the Mande people, again in Sierra Leone, and kind of looks like Vi, but not exactly. This one reads, while Vi reads left to right, this one reads right to left. And now this one, pretty amazing. These two brothers, right? The Berry brothers, fancy, some guys from Guinea with the last name like Berry. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, Ibrahima and Abdoulaye Berry invented a writing system for their language, Fulani, okay? An alphabet, because they felt that their people deserved their own alphabet, okay? And they called it Adlam. So this is a current, very current contemporary writing system. But the government was pretty suspicious of this writing system, of this alphabet. And so Ibrahim was sent to prison for 3 months in 2007. And on his release, I'm sure he made certain promises that the writing system was not going to be used. He emigrated to the US, and him and his brother ended up settling in Portland, Oregon, hence the rain that you see here. So how about that? Fulani is spoken by 13 million people in many parts of West Africa, and they all specifically use Adlam. So a writing system can be a dangerous, very dangerous thing, can land you in jail. In Senegal, they use Wolof, they speak in Wolof. So Wolof initially was a version of Arabic script, okay? And they called it Wolofao. And it's still used by older people in Senegal. But more contemporarily, an artist called Asane Faye created a writing system called an alphabet called Garey, which is also modeled loosely on the Arabic script. And then this is the one that really is amazing, truly, truly amazing. It's called Mandombe, and it was devised in 1978 by David Wabeladi Opai from the DRC, Congo, and officially introduced to the public in 1994. And it has spread beyond the DRC. It's used in Angola, in the northern parts of Zambia, which shares a border with the Congo. And it is used to write the official languages of the Congo, which are Kikongo, Lingala, Chiluba, and Swahili. And it is read from right to left. Then Giz is one of the oldest writing systems in Africa, and it is the script of Ethiopia today. So you'll find on all things Ethiopian, whether it's a keyboard or newspaper or the livery on their flagship, national flagship, the sign at the airport, everything is always in the English with the Roman alphabet, and in Giz. So a few years ago, I was approached by some people, multinational, based in France, Germany, and at Berkeley in California. They called the Missing Scripts Project. So basically what they do is they go around the world collecting the world's writing systems, and they were able to find 293 of them. And they help these scripts to become Unicode compliant so that they can be used on computers and so forth. So they said to me, well, can you please take a look at this? These are the scripts we have been able to find in Africa, from Africa. Can you take a look at them and please help us to see, well, have we covered all of them? And also, are they correct? The glyphs that we picked to depict the different writing systems, are they accurate, you know? So I looked at them and it blew my mind because some of them I had never heard of, you know? So I became really official and everything. I said, yeah, this looks good. This is very good. Job well done. You've done a great job. And of course, I'm using that information now for the new edition of my book. By the way, my book is out of print, but I'm working on a new edition with some of these new writing systems. And then these guys were working silently behind the scenes. Jamra Patel, they are from Maine, and they created a typeface called Kigelia. Basically, what they did was they took some of the writing systems and made typefaces out of them that you can use on a computer. And these are the typefaces. Adlam is there, of course. Giz, Nko, Osmania, Tifina, and Vi. And I think Bamum also is there. So they licensed it to Microsoft, who are going to include it, embed it in their operating system, I guess. So in the future, if you buy Windows, these typefaces will be there and you can use them just like you would use typefaces, all the other typefaces. This is the work of some young designers from Africa who have been inspired by my Look Within mantra. This is Simon Charway. He's a corporate designer, corporate identity designer from Ghana, and he uses the Adinkra symbols that we saw to create corporate identities that are truly Ghanaian. Then this guy here, I had to share his work because he's truly a beast. His name is Osmond Chuma. He's from Zimbabwe, but he now lives in South Africa. And he's inspired by the Bantu symbols and the house paintings of the Ndebele people to create truly South African corporate identities. This is a labor of love, a project of his from a year ago, commemorating the independence of different countries on the continent. He wants to do all 54 of them and I'm just sharing a few of them here. Like, for instance, in Angola, remember that symbol that I showed you, the Aurora people, 45 years. And then Burkina Faso, these are the masks, masquerade masks of Burkina Faso, 60 years of independence. Chad and the facial markings, scarification, 60 years of independence. And Eritrea, from their national dress, 29 years of independence. Gabon and the mask, 60 years. And Ghana, 63 years from the Adinkra symbol, 20 men. Morocco, 64 years, inspired by the tiles. In Nigeria, 60 years, inspired by the mask called the Queen Mother. It's made out of ivory. Brilliant work. Then in America, there is my partner in crime, colleague, friend. Her name is Sadie Redwing, and she's Lakota. So she's an indigenous designer. And her thing is Lakota visual language, decoding the Lakota visual language. Then on a personal level, I was a teenager in 1977 when this really amazing music from Jamaica by this guy we had never heard of before. His name was Bob Marley. This album, Exodus, came out. And I remember looking at it and just finding it exquisite, you know. I didn't know what this was, but I could read it said Exodus. But years later, I discovered that these were actually Giz characters. And as you know, Rastas, to Rastas, Ethiopia is Zion, right? So the ultimate place they want to be is in Zion. And so that brilliant solution was created by Neville Garrick, the Bob Marley's art director who did all the album covers. So of course I had to meet Neville. So I took the group. You know, for Muslims, you have to make a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in your lifetime. So for reggae lovers, Rastas, you have to make a pilgrimage to Jamaica. So I did make that pilgrimage to the Bob Marley Museum, and I met Neville Garrick. Now, the other thing about this album was that in 1999, it was named as Time Magazine's album of the century. That's how big Marley has become. But for us in Africa, this is the album, Survival. Survival is really, it's the hardest album by Marley, the hardest statement. No compromise, really, truly about Africa unite, Babylon system, the vampire. I mean, no holds barred. This is the most amazing Bob Marley album. If you don't know Bob Marley music, well, this is the place to begin. You will understand what Bob Marley was and the kind of body of work that he created from this album. And in Africa, we have our own Bob Marley. His name is Fela Anikulapo Kuti. And he created work that's just as powerful and everlasting as Bob Marley did. And I did meet also, he had an art director who created all the album covers, Lemi Garioku. He's a friend. And this is my epic work. Thomas Mapfumo is from Zimbabwe. And I just happened to be, right place, right time. He was coming for his debut tour of the US in 1988. And Island Records wanted to, he had just been signed to Island Records. And this was in his new album. So they were looking for a designer to create the artwork for that album called Corruption. And they gave me a weekend. They called me on Friday and said, we want to see something on Monday. I was ready for it because I had the cuttings from home of, corruption by government ministers and everything. So I created this collage. Now let me explain something. I created the typography. Mapfumo means spears in Shona, okay? And the frame here is total Matisse, if you know Matisse. So my thinking was, okay, so these guys in the 19th century, they stole from Africa, okay? And I actually love Matisse, okay, the cuttings. So I was like, well, I'll return the favor. How about being inspired, not stealing from Matisse, but being inspired by Matisse, okay? And I did. So that's that album. Then my friend John Walters from I magazine in the UK, he said, Saki, do you have a story for us from Zim, something about type? I was like, oh, do I have the story? Something had happened in my country where the government went on to destroy people's homes in the city, and a lot of people were evicted from what the government deemed as illegal structures. So these guys called the Highfield Art Club, who printed the posters announcing the music. Zimbabweans love live music, okay? So there was music happening in the city every weekend. And so these guys hand lettered and silk screened these posters. Each week there were new posters. Okay. So they are council owned premises where they were working from. So where did they go? They went out, basically, they discovered this yard where a graveyard basically for buses and trucks and everything. And you can see they wrapped them up with plastic and started to work there. That was the studio, okay? And you can see some of the work and the process here. So there's a guy using a ballpoint pen who draws letters and then cuts out the letters. And then they paste it on a screen and screen the posters. That's the story in I magazine. And on that note, thank you very much. I'll end with this photo that I love of Gertz and my students at the end of the 3-day workshop. Thank you very much. Right, so Paul, I can take some.
That was
questions.
Wonderful. That was so good. Thank you, Saki. So Paul or I can go through any questions. One thing while we're gathering questions, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what makes some of the typefaces or the letter forms that you talked about so dangerous. So Sabidi, for instance, you only shared a few characters. So what is it what the meaning is behind them?
No, what happens is that, and I discovered this the hard way, of course. When I was doing research for my book, I went to Havana, to Cuba, and Matanzas, which is where the Abaca Secret Society is based. And I met a young artist, a young Cuban artist, and we became fast friends, and he gave me a book. And this book was, he drew all the characters in the book, right? And I wanted someone to translate or interpret the signs. So I found a Babalao in the Bronx, back in New York. I was living in New York then. And I went up there and I showed him the book, and I was filming, I was like, I would like you to tell me what these signs are, what does this mean, what is it? My God, he grew agitated as he turned the pages, right? And I'm like, what's up? He's saying all this stuff in Spanish, and clearly agitated. So his American wife, he came on the Mariel boat lift, actually, of the 80s, and married an African American woman. So she was translating, okay, and she just stopped. She said, "Saki, he's wondering, where did you get these symbols?" And I said, "Oh, Alexis Gilbert, this young guy, gave them to me." And she said, "He was young?" I said, "Yes." He said, "And stupid, because he's not supposed to share these symbols with you, a non-initiate. You see, these are symbols. You can die for this." He said, "You can get killed for having these symbols." So clearly, in the secret societies, they have their secrets. That's why it's called a secret society, So
amazing.
So I actually ended up getting a book by this woman called Lydia Cabrera. It's a book about these symbols, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's thick. It's the Bible of Anoforuana, okay? And it's just chock full of amazing symbols, okay?
Fantastic.
But the thing is, I can't read Spanish, so I don't know. I don't know what these symbols mean, So this book is just a book. I don't share the book too much widely, because it'll lead back to me. I'm scared. So that's what I mean by dangerous.
Got it. Great. Yeah. That's a great story.
And I did go to the area where the Igbo people are, where these symbols come from in Nigeria, when I was doing my my research for the book. And I was introduced to someone there who's a member of the secret society. And that person, again, was shocked at how much I knew about them. They don't really want to be known, And I wanted to go to the village across the Calabar. It was in Calabar. I want to go to the village where the people are, the secret society. And he stalled me for 7 days until I realized he wasn't even going to take me there. And later somebody said, he saved your life, because if you had gone there and discovered the secrets, maybe you might never have come back alive.
Oh my God, that's intense.
Yeah.
Wow, the true power of typography.
Yeah.
So we do actually have a couple of questions that are coming in, and so when you were just talking about the Anna Frawana book, this is actually really appropriate, because Dylan Mulvaney would like to know if you have other books on typography or writing systems that you could recommend.
Yeah, I actually do. Books that are not too dangerous.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you can take the name of this Lydia Cabrera, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to Amazon, there are some books there by her, okay, on the same subject. I don't know if it's as amazing and awesome as this one, but she was a Cuban, a Santeria expert. So those books are on Amazon, and I can't think of other books now. But what you can do, Bobby, you can share my email. If you send me a message, I can send some books, some titles.
Fantastic. Well, and since we're talking about books, not to put you on the spot, but do you have a time frame for the newest edition of African Alphabets?
Man.
I think we have a lot of people who would be interested.
I know. I keep saying this year. That's as much as I can say, because it's a hell of a lot of work, really, really a lot of work. So, and Lord knows I'm busy, I just migrated online with the school. So basically 5 days a week, I'm working, I'm teaching, So, and I'm a farmer, if you noticed at the top. So I have to go to the farm every weekend, because I can't deal with the city vibes, I need to hear the birds sing, chirping, and silence, and no network, no cell phone. Okay? So I deserve that. so rather than be working on the book, I'm chilling at the farm, man, with the cows and the goats, Mm-hmm. That's where I really feel myself, like centered, Yeah.
Wonderful. So I have a question for some of the students, especially, but also I think all designers deal with this. I found that a lot of designers are often now faced with the choice of so many different typefaces, and one of our students that's on the line with us, a familiar name, Sydney Johnson, asked about like the using of type, like how do you choose type and typefaces, especially with the kind of rich knowledge that you have, and do you find yourself favoring one or a certain type in particular?
Well, before I knew about the existence of writing systems, I was educated. My education is with Swiss tradition, so there were just a few typefaces, Univers, Garamond, things like Caslon, those families. Those were the typefaces that my generation used, right? But I tell you, being aware of other writing systems was very liberating for me. So I think that these workshops where I have students design their own typefaces, I think that for them, they will never be the same. Because hell, if you can't make up your mind, you draw your own typeface.
Yep. Great. So I'm going to ask one last question, and then we'll call it a day, because I think everybody has things to do. But our friend Tim Brown ask a really good one here that I think is appropriate for our final question, which is, what aspects of design practice or culture would you most like to see change in coming years? What do you, what does the future hold? What would you like to see changed in design?
What I would like to see change? I would like to see Sadie Red Wing becoming the mainstream. You know, I would like to see designers from other cultures being accepted in the mainstream. Like, for instance, if you come to America and you're from China, you don't have to be told, leave the Chinese stuff at the door. That has to be part of the work. Your work has to be imbued with that, and it has to be part of the pedagogy, you know? That's, I really, and some of us say, in America, you are good at buzzwords. The big buzzwords now is decolonization, decolonization. Right. So me and Sadie say, you know what, Sadie? We got to decolonize decolonization. You know, we really are pissed off because the people who are trumpeting this decolonization never experienced colonization to start with. We did, right? So we should be leading the clarion call.
There you go. Wonderful. You know, I have to say, this is one of the most inspiring talks I've experienced and heard in so long. I really appreciate the time you spent with us, especially with the time difference. We've had a really fantastic group of people that were also able to see this talk. And I think your kind of final cry around kind of bringing decolonization, I think is really good for our different design organizations, the TDC, the One Club, AIGA, and others to hear, because I think, you know, hopefully they have a power to make some of that change. So let's continue to do what we can. For those of you that are still on, please continue to check out or keep an eye out for this new edition of this book that we think is coming sometime soon, because I definitely want to pour through that. And then please go to tdc.org for scholarship information for TDC and Monotype's Beatrice Ward Scholarship and the scholarship for BIPOC designers studying typography called Superscript. So thank you all today. Thank you so much, Saki. Really, really appreciate this time you've been able to share with us.
My pleasure.
All right. We're signing off.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.